Hello everyone! This is Blackbird Hopes, and I'm actually going to talk about something that I was going to avoid talking about initially, and believe me, I really wasn't going to cover this topic, but I was actually at work today, and this elderly woman that was bullied was still being talked about on CNN and the larger news publications. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't this happen like 2 or 3 weeks ago? And this is still on the major news publications like CNN, and I just thought it'd be old news by now, but it still isn't. And if you haven't heard yet, I mean everyone has heard, unless you live under a rock like SpongeBob. No, that's a pineapple. But Patrick lives under a rock. But anyways, an elderly bus monitor was monitoring, and I'm making air quotes with my hands when I say monitoring, because she was just sitting there, not really doing anything, kind of like a defenseless calf, and these kids are vicious lions. Better yet, they're hyenas or something. I don't know. They just circled around her and was just jabbing her with insults. And don't worry, I'm not going to go all crazy, and I'm not going to cuss these kids out over YouTube. I'm not going to demand the President of the United States to do anything about this. I'm not going to talk about the insults, but these kids were kids. Kids in the United States are disrespectful. How many well-behaved kids do you know? Seriously, how many well-behaved kids do you know? I probably can count them on one hand. And just think of your middle school self and think about how you would have conducted yourself. I may not have said anything, but I was kind of a punk in middle school, so I don't know. That's just me. But let me know what you would have done if you were on that bus. I probably would have just egged the other kids on. I really wasn't that cruel as a kid, but you know how it is in school. If it's not you getting picked on, then you're okay with that most of the time. So, but could you imagine being the one kid that stood up for her? You'd probably get beaten up or picked on for days, and you just don't want to do that. So I don't blame any of those kids for not standing up for this old lady. I actually feel like you're a product of your environment. I'm not saying that you can actually control everything around you, because that's not realistic. But what you can do, or better yet, what you don't do, can dictate what happens to you. And there are people every day in bad neighborhoods who get shot at and robbed and all this other bad stuff, and yet we don't care about them because they aren't old. The fact that they didn't get out of the hood, or wherever you want to call it, caused them to receive harm. It didn't cause them to gain any exposure like this one lady did. But this lady obviously did not make too many smart decisions in her 65 years on this earth. If she did, she probably would have more of a stable job. She wasn't handicapped in any shape, so this wasn't like the only thing that she could get. Well, to my knowledge, it wasn't the only job that she could have. She was what she was, a bus monitor on a middle school bus filled with kids who don't care about her feelings. Kids who are just cruel for no reason. It was, if you ask me, it was a ticking time bomb, and it was just irresistible for these kids. They just couldn't resist attacking this elderly woman. And don't get me wrong, these kids are wrong. These kids are terribly out of line. They should not have done this, and it does reflect poorly to to Americans everywhere and their parents and all that stuff. But these kids are 10 to 13-year-old kids, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, depending on I guess like where they started school. But like, what do you expect? Kids these days don't respect the elderly because of the perception that there is in America that the elderly are just stupid or dumb or or anything like that. Could you imagine a 25-year-old woman on this bus, or or a 30-year-old, 40-year-old guy on this bus? He could defend himself, and this probably would have never happened. But the good thing is that people treated this as a charity case. So if there is one good thing that came out of this, it is that people treated this as a charity case. They saw that this woman couldn't defend herself, and that she needed charity. She needed money, and so people donated money to her, and they gave this woman money for being picked on, which sounds ridiculous. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but emotions heal. Give this lady attention, sure, but why would you give her your hard-earned money for that? I really don't understand it. This woman has actually gotten enough money to retire and even go on a nice vacation. And I'm actually glad that something good came out of this, but I just think this whole thing was blown out of proportion, and she should not have been compensated for getting picked on. My girlfriend was actually telling me today that this woman who was ziplining across some rocky, rivery surface. I really don't know all the details, but basically the zip line was faulty. So she fell many feet, and she had to get her legs amputated, and I believe it was one arm, if I remember correctly. And that is a bad situation. That deserves our donations. That deserves more exposure. She is in a far worse situation than the elderly woman that was picked on. So it's kind of like we prioritize different things in this country that we don't in other places, and I just think it's interesting that this woman who was picked on has enough money to retire, while this other woman who lost 3 limbs, she lost 3 out of 4 limbs, and she's getting much less exposure than a lady who only got picked on. But I don't know, I guess that's just the world that we live in, and I guess we can't really do anything about it. But that's about all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my very first rant on this channel, and let me know if you enjoyed it. I really like ranting because it's just a nice change of pace from just talking about Call of Duty. And let me know if you enjoyed it. Leave a like or a comment if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe if you already haven't and you're planning on doing that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.